everyone, and welcome. Today, we're going to dive into one of the most powerful ideas in all of human history, the concepts of heaven and hell. We're going to break down how these beliefs about what comes next have really, truly shaped our world, our ideas about right and wrong, and even the way our societies work. So let's get right into it. I mean, have you ever really stopped to think about that? It's kind of wild, isn't it? From ancient civilizations to today's global religions, you see this idea pop up again and again, a beautiful reward for a life well lived and a terrible punishment for a life gone wrong. Why is this framework so common? Well, that is the big question we're going to unpack together today. At some point or another, we all wrestle with those big questions. What does it actually mean to be a good person? Do my choices really matter in the grand scheme of things? This explainer is all about cutting through that complexity and giving you a clear, step-by-step look at how these beliefs about an afterlife provide a powerful structure for answering those very questions. So, here's our roadmap. First, we'll look at why this whole idea is so universal in the first place. Then we'll explore the ultimate carrot, the promise of heaven, and then the ultimate stick, the warning of hell. After that, we'll zoom out to see how these ideas have been used to shape entire societies. And finally, we're going to get to a really mind-bending idea. What if the whole point is to move beyond both? Okay, so let's jump right in. Why are these ideas so fundamental to the human experience? Well, it seems to boil down to a very basic but incredibly powerful social function. What's really incredible here is just how practical this whole belief system is. Forget about whether you can prove it or not. For thousands of years, it has worked as this amazing social tool. It sets up a really simple, compelling framework. If you do good things, you'll eventually be rewarded. If you do bad things, there will be consequences. It's an incredibly powerful engine for encouraging moral behavior on a massive scale. All right, so that's the basic framework. Now let's look at the incentive side of the equation, the promise of heaven. How exactly do different traditions imagine this ultimate reward? And this is where you can see some really fascinating variety, but also some common themes. For example, in Buddhism, heavens are these amazing, blissful places, but, and this is a big but, they're temporary. They're just nice stops along the way in the cycle of rebirth. Same goes for Hinduism, where you might reach a celestial world, but that's not the final destination. It's really in traditions like Judaism and Christianity where you see this idea of an eternal communion with God. So the details are different, but the core idea is the same, a wonderful state you can achieve through a virtuous life. So here's the key takeaway. While the final destinations might look a little different, the maps for how to get there share a lot of common landmarks. Across the board, it's a mix of living an ethical life, working on yourself through things like meditation, having faith, and trying to gain a deeper wisdom about the world. It's not just about blindly following rules. It's about a deep personal transformation. Okay, time to look at the other side of that coin. Let's dive into our third section, the warning of hell. How does this threat of punishment work as a moral compass? This is also super interesting. In Buddhism, hell, or Nirvana, is a real place of intense suffering, but it's not forever. It's a temporary, though very uncomfortable rebirth that comes from bad karma. You're not stuck. In Hinduism, suffering comes from mistaking your temporary body for your true self. But then you look at Christianity, and the concept becomes a state of eternal separation from God. And what's really fascinating is that in traditional Judaism, there's much more focus on justice and consequences right here in this life. So the idea of a fiery hell is way less central. And this brings up a really crucial point, especially in Christian thought. For many, hell isn't so much a physical place with fire and pitchforks. The real horror, the ultimate punishment, is the spiritual agony of being completely and eternally cut off from the source of all goodness, all love, all light. It's a state of being, a profound loneliness, more than just a specific location. This brings us perfectly to our fourth section. Now that we've looked at the carrot and the stick, let's zoom out and see how these two powerful forces work together to actually build a moral society. Think of it like a giant feedback loop. It all starts with you, with a single person's choice, to be kind or to be cruel. That choice is then seen through the lens of a belief that eventually there will be an ultimate consequence. When millions of people hold that belief, it creates and strengthens the shared moral code that allows an entire society to function. It's a simple but incredibly effective social engine. But here's the twist. It's not just about keeping things the way they are. What's so interesting is that these belief systems can also be totally revolutionary. This quote here is a perfect example. By saying that the meek and the peacemakers are the blessed ones, it flips the world's values completely upside down. It challenges the powers that be and calls for a radically different and more just kind of world. And that leads us right into our final section, which, well, it might just be the most mind-bending of all. What if the entire system of reward and punishment, of getting into heaven and staying out of hell, isn't even the ultimate goal? This is a massive shift in thinking. For traditions like Buddhism and Hinduism, even the most amazing, blissful heaven is still part of the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth, which is ultimately a cycle of suffering. The real goal isn't just to get a better room in the prison. The goal is to break out of the prison altogether. So what's outside that cycle? In Buddhism, it's called Nibbana or Nirvana. And it's not a place, it's a state of being that's described as supramundane, which means it's totally outside our normal way of understanding things. It's the complete end of wanting, of hating, of confusion. And because of that, it's the final end of all suffering. Just peace. Hinduism has a similar powerful idea with the realization of Brahman. Here, final freedom comes through knowledge, this deep, profound moment of understanding that your individual soul was never actually separate from the ultimate reality of the entire universe. The goal is to let go of the illusion of being a separate self and realize you're part of the cosmic whole. So let's just put this side by side because the difference is huge. On one side, you have heaven and hell. Think of them as temporary stops, whether good or bad. You're still on the ride. On the other side, you have liberation. That's permanent. That's escaping the ride altogether, not through good deeds alone, but through a fundamental shift in wisdom and understanding. And what's really cool is you can find echoes of this kind of thinking in Western philosophy too. The philosopher Soren Kierkegaard warned that if you get too obsessed with the idea of salvation, with just trying to get your ticket into heaven, you could miss the whole point, which is the crucial day-to-day task of actually becoming a better person, right here and now. The focus shifts from some future reward to your own inner transformation. All right, let's quickly recap what we've covered. The ideas of heaven and hell have served as this incredibly powerful framework for encouraging moral behavior all over the world. The details might change, but their social function is pretty universal. They act as tools for social order. But for many deep spiritual paths, they're really just stepping stones toward a much bigger goal: total liberation from the cycle of existence itself. And that leaves us with one final big question to chew on. In our world today, which is becoming more and more secular, how do these ancient ideas of ultimate justice and final purpose still shape us? They haven't just vanished. They continue to influence our laws, our ethics, and our personal search for meaning in ways we might not even realize. It's a pretty powerful legacy. But what do you think about all of this? How do you see these ideas playing out in the world around you? I would genuinely love to hear your take. So please share your thoughts and any questions you have in the comments section below. And hey, if you found this explainer helpful, please do us a huge favor and hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss our next deep dive. Thanks so much for watching.